Owning a home, it's a dream that has been cherished by countless generations. It's the American dream, right? A symbol of success, stability, and a place to call your own. For generations, families have scrimped and saved, all for a piece of the land. They put away pennies, nickels, and dimes, dreaming of the day they could have a place to call their own. But those homes, those castles we build, they tell a story. Each brick, each beam, each nail is a chapter in the narrative of our lives. It's a story about our economy, our hopes, and sometimes our struggles. From the Great Depression to the post-war boom, each era has left its mark on the homes we live in. Think about it. The price of a house isn't just about bricks and mortar. It's a reflection of the times we live in, the challenges we face, and the dreams we hold dear. It's about supply and demand, interest rates, jobs, the whole shebang. The housing market is a complex web of factors, each influencing the other. Over the last century, we've seen it all: booms, busts, and everything in between. The roaring 20s, the crash of the 30s, the post-war boom, and the housing crisis of the 2000s. So buckle up. We're going on a wild ride through the history of home values in America. From the highs to the lows, and everything in between, we'll explore the forces that have shaped the market. We'll uncover the forces that shaped the market, from the roaring 20s to the tech boom and beyond. Each era brought its own challenges and opportunities, shaping the homes we live in today. Get ready to learn about the good times, the bad times, and everything in between. The story of home values is a roller coaster ride, full of twists and turns. Trust me, it's a story you won't forget. From the dreams of our ancestors to the realities of today, the journey of homeownership is one of the most compelling tales of our time. The early 1900s, a time of new beginnings. America was booming, factories were popping up like daisies, and people were moving to cities for work. But guess what? Houses were affordable. A decent home cost just a few $1,000s. Can you imagine? Why so cheap? Well, there were plenty of houses to go around, and mortgages. They weren't as common back then. People mostly paid in cash. It was a time of steady, slow growth in the housing market. Like a strong foundation, it set the stage for the decades to come. But little did people know, a storm was brewing. The 1930s. The Great Depression hit America like a ton of bricks. Businesses crumbled, banks closed, and millions lost their jobs. The housing market, it crashed hard. People couldn't afford their mortgages. Homes were foreclosed left and right. Prices plummeted. It was a disaster. The dream of homeownership seemed out of reach for many. The economy was in shambles, and the housing market reflected that grim reality. But like all storms, this one eventually passed. After the darkness of the Depression and World War II, America was ready for a fresh start. The economy roared back to life. Jobs were plentiful, and families were eager to settle down. And with that came a housing boom. Demand for homes skyrocketed. New suburbs sprang up filled with cookie-cutter houses. The government even helped out with programs like the GI Bill, making it easier for veterans to get mortgages. Homeownership became more accessible than ever before. Prices rose steadily, but it was a time of optimism. The American dream was back on track, and homes were at the heart of it. But hold on, the ride wasn't over yet. The 1960s and 70s were a wild ride for the housing market. It was like a roller coaster with its fair share of ups and downs. The economy went through some turbulent times, inflation soared, and interest rates followed suit. Mortgages became more expensive, making it tougher for folks to buy homes. But there were bright spots too. The rise of the two-income household meant more families could afford homes. And let's not forget the groovy new architectural styles that popped up. The housing market was like a disco ball, reflecting the changing times, full of energy, uncertainty, and a touch of funk. The 1980s and 90s. Remember shoulder pads and leg warmers? Well, the housing market was all about stability and growth during these decades. The economy found its footing and interest rates calmed down. People felt more confident about investing in homes. Home values rose steadily, but not too fast. It was a good time to be a homeowner, and even first-time buyers had a decent shot at getting on the property ladder. The market was like a reliable station wagon, not flashy, but it got you where you needed to go. But little did we know, a storm was brewing on the horizon, a storm that would shake the housing market to its core. The 2000s, a time of optimism and rapid technological advancement. The dawn of a new millennium brought with it hopes and dreams of a brighter future. The internet was booming, connecting people like never before, and the economy seemed unstoppable, with stock markets reaching new heights. But beneath the surface, a crisis was brewing in the housing market, one that would soon reveal the fragility of this apparent prosperity. Remember those low interest rates? They were meant to stimulate the economy, making borrowing cheaper and more accessible. Well, they fueled a frenzy of buying. People rushed to purchase homes, believing that real estate was a surefire investment. Everyone wanted a piece of the pie, even if they couldn't really afford it. The dream of homeownership seemed within reach for many. Mortgages were given out like candy on Halloween, even to people with shaky credit. Banks and lenders were eager to capitalize on the demand. These were called subprime mortgages, and guess what? They came with higher interest rates and greater risks. They were bundled together and sold off as investments, creating complex financial products that few truly understood. Home prices soared to dizzying heights, driven by speculation and easy credit. It was a bubble waiting to burst. It seemed too good to be true. Everyone was making money, and the good times appeared endless. And you know what? It was. The reality was far more precarious than it seemed. The bubble burst in 2008. The housing market collapsed, and the repercussions were felt worldwide. Defaults on those risky mortgages triggered a chain reaction that brought the entire financial system to its knees. Banks failed, and credit markets froze. The housing market crashed, wiping out trillions of dollars in wealth. Families lost their homes, and communities were devastated. It was the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. The impact was profound, leading to widespread unemployment and economic hardship. Governments around the world scrambled to respond, implementing bailout packages and financial reforms to stabilize the economy. In the aftermath, there was a push for greater financial literacy and stricter regulations to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. Slowly, the economy began to recover, but the lessons of the housing crisis remain a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked speculation and greed. Today, the housing market is more regulated, but the memories of the crisis still linger, shaping how we view homeownership and financial stability. As we move forward, it's crucial to remember the past, to ensure that the house of cards we build is on a foundation of stability and responsibility. The aftermath of the 2008 crash was brutal. Millions lost their homes to foreclosure. The dream of homeownership turned into a nightmare for many. But slowly, things started to recover. The government stepped in with bailouts and stimulus packages. Interest rates were slashed to historic lows, making mortgages more affordable. The housing market began a slow and steady climb back up. But it was a different landscape. Lenders were more cautious, and buyers were less willing to overextend themselves. Just as things were looking up, the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2020, throwing another curveball at the market. But that's a story for another time. So, what does the future hold for home values? It's a question that has intrigued economists, homeowners, and potential buyers alike for decades. Well, if there's one thing we've learned from history, it's that predicting the housing market is like trying to predict the weather. Just as weather patterns can be influenced by countless variables, so too can the housing market be swayed by a myriad of factors. There are a lot of factors at play: the economy, interest rates, demographics, you name it. Each of these elements can shift the market in unexpected ways. For instance, a booming economy can lead to higher home values, while rising interest rates might cool the market down. But one thing's for sure, the American dream of homeownership is still alive and kicking. Despite the fluctuations, the desire to own a piece of property remains strong. This dream is deeply rooted in the idea of personal success and financial stability. People will always need a place to live, and for many, owning a home represents stability, security, and a sense of pride. It's not just about having a roof over one's head, it's about creating a space where memories are made and futures are built. The housing market will continue to evolve, with its share of ups and downs. New technologies, changing lifestyles, and evolving economic conditions will all play a role in shaping the future landscape of homeownership. But as long as people believe in the dream, there will always be a demand for homes. Open houses will continue to attract potential buyers, and real estate agents will keep busy matching people with their ideal properties. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the fascinating history of home values in America. From the early days of settlement to the modern era, the story of homeownership is one of resilience and adaptation. It's been a wild ride, and who knows what the future holds. The market may experience highs and lows, but the fundamental need for housing will always remain. But one thing's for sure, it's a story that's still being written. Each new generation will add its own chapter, continuing the legacy of homeownership and shaping the future of the housing market.